713. To the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying. Sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest. Rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, we can throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mags.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Loaded Mag NUFC for a Wednesday special. Something a little bit different tonight, and something that I know Newcastle United fans will be really interested in as we get our guest on very shortly. But boys, we're back again. Daz, Chris, how are you on this fine Wednesday evening?
I'm back. I made it into the show. I was so pissed off on whatever that Brighton reaction show was. I couldn't get on my internet. My whole weekend actually was a nightmare. Power cuts and internet issues and everything like that. But it's like that Brighton game didn't happen to me, so I'm just gonna forget about it. But I'm good apart from that. Chris, how are you?
All good, mate. Yeah, busy day in work, but yeah, all good. And I've got to admit, boys, like it's an absolute pleasure to have Sami on tonight. So really excited to have Sami on, and looking forward to hearing all things Eddie Howe and Marc Guéhi. But yeah, on a personal level, boys, I am really good. Pete, how are you doing?
Not too bad. Enjoying half term where we are.
Here we go.
Kids out and about. Yeah, can't complain. All good. But yeah, really looking forward to getting Sami on and talking all things Newcastle United, Marc Guéhi, wherever you want to take it. And I think at this point, let's get him on. Let's not waste any more time. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome in Chief Football Reporter, Daily Mail, Sami Mokbel.
A very cool looking Sami.
Hey lads, how you doing?
Yeah.
Welcome, Sami.
You say, we spoke earlier. You say a very cool looking Sami, but also a very cold looking Sami. Because this conservatory is, the temperature's plummeted over the last couple of days.
It has, absolutely. If it wasn't the bad storms, it's now the cold weather that we just kind of see these parts of the world. But look, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on, Sami. We've said it so many times in the green room. We'll say it again. Great for you to take the time and come and join us. And firstly, I think from all three of us, we really do appreciate your work over the summer. You covered certainly the Marc Guéhi transfer saga fantastically well. Always on the button with everything, and we look forward to chatting about it really. But look, as people are coming in the chat, you know what you need to do. First of all, you need to click that like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Get your questions in for Sami as well, because we'll hopefully get a section where questions will be asked to Sami, and there's already a few streaming in right now that will start. So thank you for watching. But first of all, let's talk about the England situation, because that's what we've covered more recently. And look, I know you've been on the button with that as well. And from a Newcastle perspective, there was the talk all summer around Eddie Howe being that sort of number one candidate, or certainly within the top three. And then, of course, we find out that he hasn't even been interviewed, and Thomas Tuchel's got the job. Like, what do you make of that situation with the England manager's job, and in particular, sort of Eddie Howe and how it all came about?
Yeah, it's been an interesting few days, really, because I think part of the sort of narrative over the past few days regarding Eddie would be down to semantics, just purely because I think obviously that the wording of the FA on the day that Thomas Tuchel was announced was that they'd interviewed 10 managers, or approximately 10 managers. Right. I think where that argument may fall down is the actual word for interview.
Yeah.
Because I think to say that Eddie Howe wasn't sounded out at all, I'm not sure that's correct. I think maybe perhaps in a roundabout way, maybe not directly to Eddie. I think he would have been aware that England had an interest. But ultimately, my feeling and my information is that the kind of the rigmarole perhaps of getting into a negotiation with Newcastle, trying in terms of the FA, trying to get him out of St James's Park, and then equally the cost of doing that, I think was a crucial factor and would have been and was really prohibitive to that move taking place. But were the FA and were England interested in Eddie Howe? Unequivocally, 100%, yes, they were.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think we'd spoken about it before, lads, at the time, about a release clause for Eddie Howe and how expensive that would be. And one thing that we'd mentioned, Sami, and you've kind of just sort of touched on it there, is that if you look back through the managers that England have got in previous time, they haven't paid huge amounts of money to get anybody out their contract, and it would have gone away from what they normally do. And that's ultimately what you're saying. And ultimately they've gone for a manager that was a free agent in Thomas Tuchel. Now, just really quickly before we move on, Eddie Howe's not taken the job or been interviewed. Great for us. Most Newcastle fans would be absolutely buzzing at that. I know there's a few rumbles at the moment with our results that some sections of the fan base are not happy at this moment in time. However, and Sami just got some connectivity issues, so we'll be back in just a second. We're in a position now where Thomas Tuchel is the guy. He's in charge. And look, Chris, Daz, I'll come to you as well on this. And Sami, when he's just about to come back on now.
He's back.
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened there. Just
no.
Sorry.
Don't worry, it's the beauty of Wi-Fi in tech. It happens. But I'll come back to you, Sami, on this, because obviously with Eddie Howe staying at Newcastle United, we've got Thomas Tuchel from an England perspective. What do you make of that? Do you think that's a good move for England? It has been seen both sides. Some really happy with that appointment of the level of manager, some not happy for other reasons. Where do you sit on that appointment yourself?
From the best available managers who
I think we've lost him again. I know tech's been a slight issue, but Chris, I'll come to you as we try and get Sami back. 1 second. Oh, here he is.
Sorry, lads. Yeah, I think he was the best available candidate for someone who the FA didn't require to pay compensation for. Yeah. He's a proven winner. He's won the Champions League. He's won trophies wherever he's gone. So to get a manager of that caliber with England we all believe and we all hope, on the cusp of achieving something great, 18 months away from a World Cup. I think you've got to try it, and I think we've got to trust in Thomas. There is still a part of me that yearns for that argument that the manager should be English. I fully understand that argument. I really do. But I think in 18 months' time, and if England have won the World Cup, I don't think any of us will care that Thomas Tuchel is German. I really don't. And I think we kind of owe it to this generation of players to give them the best possible chance of winning a trophy. And I think in Thomas Tuchel, you've got a proven winner at someone who has shown he's able to comprise and put together game plans and strategies for specific matches to win specific matches. And I think in knockout football, tournament football, I think that is really, really key.
definitely. Yeah, Chris, I'll come to you from that. You happy that Tuchel is in charge from an England perspective? I know you're not an avid England watcher, but how do you see that?
I think it's a really good appointment. I think I said at the time, didn't I? It was a brave appointment. You know, Sammy's right in that if Tuchel ends up winning something with England, people will soon forget that he's German, although some people will not. And that's why I said it was a brave appointment, because, you know, there'll be some sections of the England fan base who just will never accept them. But, you know, in recent times, we've obviously had Sven, we've had Fabio Capello. So there's no reason why not. And let's be honest, you know, this England squad is one of the best in world football. So in order to, you know, want to be the best and want to win things, you want to go out and get one of the best managers. And in fairness, tactically, Thomas Tuchel is one of the best managers out there. And, you know, can you pass up the opportunity of bringing someone like him in on a free? I don't think you can. Because, you know, if he was tied down to a Bayern or a PSG like he was previously, or a Chelsea, then he's going to cost a hell of a lot of money. So to you know, pass up the opportunity of bringing someone like Thomas Tuchel in, for me, would be mad. So I do think it's a good appointment, and I do see why England have done it, particularly if they don't, you know, want to pay out loads for the manager. It just makes perfect sense.
Can I just make one point as well? I think there's a really, and I know people don't want to, people will look at that situation at the FA and, you know, it's the FA. If you wanted Eddie Howe, if you wanted Pep Guardiola, why didn't you just go and pay for them and go and get them out of their clubs? You know, you've got X amount of money. You're the biggest sort of football organisation, barring the Premier League in the country. Why don't you go and do it? I think one of the key reasons, what I understand, one of the key reasons why they were so reluctant to enter negotiations with certain clubs for their managers, and more specifically pay, is we mustn't forget, sort of 3 or 4 years ago during COVID, they had to make, the FA made 127 redundancies because of the losses created by, I think it may be 350 million of the black hole, financial black hole. So yes, listen, we're in a different financial landscape now, and, you know, we're well in, and the FA are well into a recovery. But I still think, even if it is 3 or 4 years down the line, paying that amount of money, you know, I think my colleague Craig Hope, who works up in the Northeast with you guys, who is never wrong, I think he wrote it would have been between 6 and 8 million quid to get him out. Now, that's a substantial sum, and a lot of people will say, no, it isn't. You know, it's the FA. You've got the money. Why don't you spend it? And that's also a valid argument. But when you have made those redundancies not too long ago, I'm not sure that's necessarily a good look for a governing body. If you're paying that amount of money just to get your new manager into his position, and then on top of that, paying him his sort of 4 or 5 million a year salary.
I think that's fair. Definitely. Before we move on to Marc Guéhi talk, anything from the Irishman in the corner?
Yeah, no. Well, I'm slightly worried because, like, going along with the golden generation of talent that the English have lead into the next World Cup, you also have a proven winner now. So yeah, it could be going home, lads. Could be going home. You never know. Is it too early to start that? You know, yeah. I don't know. You do normally like to start it.
Just a little bit.
And also, I knew well Eddie Howe wasn't going nowhere when I heard talk of that the contract and the release clause / buyout clause that we involved there. I knew he was, and he'd have to show major interest. He's unfinished business. Whether he'd be allowed to complete that business is another question. We'll see.
Definitely. Right, let's get into it. So the ultimate reason why we've asked you to come on, Sami, is because this summer you covered a transfer saga fantastically well. Didn't end well from a Newcastle perspective because we didn't get our man. Not yet. Anyway, we'll maybe talk about that. But look, Marc Guéhi it came around, I believe, on the 2nd of August. It was kind of released, and I'll just work through. We were like I said to you before, we like to do a bit of a storyboard, so I'll work through all of the information. There's a little bit because it was 4 weeks.
Drop music in the background, Pete.
No. Music's okay for that, but we'll work through it. So, of course, from a social media perspective, both yourself and David Ornstein, put something out that it was in place, and it started. So Ornstein put out that that negotiations were opening. Yourself, you put a piece out on the same day, saying that they were in direct talks. It was moving forward. Ornstein's come back and said the offer was submitted a couple of days later. I think you put a piece out, Sami, with regards to even the fact that there could be a replacement lined up, Trevor Chalobah, who ended up coming in, just not as a replacement, unfortunately for us. But we got news on the 9th that there was an unsuccessful bid. The second bid had been rejected, but then was told very quickly that there was a third offer coming in. At that point, you kind of delved a little bit more in terms of the offer and what that looked like. 55-5 was the case, and then we got the issue with Steve Parish, where he came in and referred to Marc Guéhi as a superstar. And that's when we kind of realized that the deal might not be happening. Obviously, Marc Guéhi said he wasn't quite a superstar, but appreciated the comments nonetheless. You then mentioned on the 16th that there was a fourth bid coming in, potentially, nearer to that £65 million mark, which was then very quickly rejected. So you were very busy on that day with regards to the news. And at that point, it was a case of Ornstein said that we were looking in a different direction. There was rumours of Tapsoba and Disasi potentially coming in. And then as we got nearer towards the end of the window, 26th of August, it looked like the deal was going to be done at that point. It looked like it was moving closer, and you wrote a piece saying that it was looking like it was going to be a deal close to sort of 70 million at that point. Fabrizio Romano also mentioned that too. We're getting now towards the end, saying that it was going to be resolved in the next 48 hours. But then we get on the 29th that it's then on the ropes, and there's might well be a chance that it's not going to be coming through. And then eventually it looks like we're going to be missing out. And yourself and Craig Hope worked together on a piece on that sort of close to that deadline day, letting us know on that situation. So you can see it was a mad 4 weeks. Mad for you because you must have been constantly on the phone writing pieces, as we could see on that. But for a Newcastle fan, it was kind of so up and down. Emotions were fluctuating day by day with regards to Marc Guéhi. Ultimately, we've done a little bit of a storyboard there, but what happened? Like, what is? It looked like it was going to be a done deal, at least 2 or 3 points over that 4 week period. What's happened that's ensured that deal didn't go through in the end, and he wasn't a Newcastle United player?
It's a really good question, because at the start of the summer, I would have put my house on that deal happening. I really would have, because I know he's not come out publicly and said it, but I would have thought that there would have been every chance that Marc.
He's playing with us.
We'll never know.
We will. We do know that Sam's got some.
Tune in next week to find out what happens.
Yeah, cliffhanger.
That was a hell of a cliffhanger. We'll tell him when he comes back in.
I left you hanging there. It was like an episode of EastEnders, wasn't it? Yeah, listen, I think I would have put my house on that deal happening. I remember vividly when so I'd got back from the Euros, right? And there was a couple of clubs. Who I knew had been interested in Marc. one of them being Newcastle. But I got back from the Euros. I'd been away from the family, obviously, for like 5 weeks because England made it to the final. So, and we'd lined up a holiday we'd gone on a holiday basically to Mexico a week after I'd got back. So I tried to stay off my phone, and then I started getting texts when David Ornstein made that tweet and put that story out, and I was like, oh God, my missus is going to kill me here because I'm going to have to get involved. I'm going to have to get involved with working. But it was right, and I knew it was right, and I knew one of the clubs definitely were 100% Newcastle at the time. But what I think didn't act in Newcastle's favour, looking back now, is the very fact that it was a one club race. It was a one club market. So Palace knew that it was just Newcastle, but also crucially, what Palace also knew is that Eddie had told Newcastle and had told Paul Mitchell it was basically Marc Guéhi or bust. He's the only player that he wanted, and I think that's pretty much been reported now. Yeah. But that was absolutely the case. Eddie had absolutely set his heart on getting Marc Guéhi. He was keen on, and he was quite close to actually. Newcastle were close to getting Tosin Adebayo. Was another deal that I was quite close to, but when that fell through, they quickly sort of shifted gear into trying to get Marc done.
Can I just pause you there for a second, because we covered that deal extensively as well on this channel.
Yeah.
In the course of the summer, and you mentioned that you kind of followed that deal. What happened there? Was it because we dropped out of Europe? Was it because that Chelsea offered more money? Are you able to kind of divulge what happened there? Because Newcastle fans still aren't quite clear on that.
I think there was a financial implication for sure. I think that would have that was certainly a factor. I think. I know. I think Maresca was definitely a factor. I think he was impressed by Maresca and what he had to say. Although in hindsight, I would look at that situation now, and Tosin probably isn't playing as much as he would like right now. I know he started at the weekend, and I wonder if he feels now maybe he would have been better served going to Newcastle. But my understanding of that situation was that Eddie had actually spoken to Tosin face to face, and it was a positive. I think it was a positive conversation, a really positive conversation. And I think everyone at Newcastle, Eddie included, was shocked when it emerged that he was in Dubai, but he was flying back, but he wasn't flying back to the northeast. He was flying back into London to sign with Chelsea. And up until the very last minute, trust me when I say this, I think Newcastle was always a realistic option for Tosin. I just think that the circumstances of the deal that Chelsea put on the table meant that he felt like he had no other option but to move to Chelsea.
Yeah, just to jump in on Tosin, I was listening to Keith Downey. He had a video there in the last week, I think, but he had said something that Tosin wanted a kind of like a release clause. If another club came in for a certain price that he could leave or he could consider it, and Newcastle didn't want to have that kind of a clause in. They were just after going through the Bruno saga. That clause that he had, so they didn't want another clause hanging over them of that. So it does sound like Chelsea have gone with that approach. So
I haven't heard that yet. No, I haven't heard that specifically, but it was. I think that the reason that the deal, or the reason that he chose Chelsea over Newcastle was purely a negotiation for negotiation reasons. What the factors were in those negotiations, I can't say, and I'm absolutely party to, but I don't think there was any kind of grand moment in Tosin's head where he thought, "Oh no, I need to go to Chelsea." I purely think it was.
We'll get him back in a minute. Just lost that connection again. But it's a fascinating conversation, and I'm really glad that Sami brought up the Tosin situation, because we weren't quite sure. I know that, as you mentioned, that Keith Dowdy had touched on that point as well with Tosin. But sorry, Sami, carry on, mate.
Yeah, I think it was purely or mainly a negotiation. The negotiation was the biggest factor. Obviously, Maresca, as I mentioned already, but I think that the pair might have just crossed paths at City while Maresca was there, maybe. But I also know Maresca sold his vision to Tosin really, really well, and yeah, he was the one that got away, really, wasn't he? Sort of at the start of the summer, and then obviously, but then the Marc. I think the Marc deal, all of you guys sort of almost had your heart set on, because it was played out in public, right? And nowadays it's so weird, not weird, but it's, in terms of, because of social media and how deals are played out in public, and in many ways, and I'm sure I'm wrong, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and tell me I'm an idiot, but so the social media fan would much rather maybe get a big deal like that over the line than win the game on Saturday. I think there's a bigger win to be had on social media than the actual 3 points on a Saturday afternoon, which in my mind is absolutely bewildering. But I think, here we are in 2024, and transfers are such a big deal now for this new social media football fan generation. They're massive, aren't they?
It's almost like, the way we see it when we see it on social media, transfers are almost like just as competitive as a football match. So from a Newcastle perspective, and what that 4 weeks turned into, welcome back there, what that turned into is almost like a Newcastle versus Palace on social media. So many different accounts of Palace and Newcastle going at each other. Every little turn from pieces that you're putting out, and the way that deal fluctuated. 1 minute Newcastle fans were saying, yeah, it's coming to Newcastle and going at Palace. Then the other way it would be going when a bid got rejected. And it becomes just as competitive as it would be on a match at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. And that's why it becomes so important. And I think that's why so many Newcastle fans were distraught when that deal didn't go through. And there were questions by Newcastle United fans. And I'll ask you, you were a lot closer to the deal than us. There were questions from Newcastle fans, why isn't he putting a transfer request? Does he actually want to come to Newcastle United? Palace fans saying, he ain't interested in Newcastle. You don't want to go to Newcastle. We've got content creators from Palace that we work closely with that say they ain't interested in Newcastle. Was that the case? Was he never really interested? Was it a case in which he is just a nice guy who doesn't want to rock the boat? Or how could that situation have been moved on by a transfer request or something potentially?
Yeah, it could have been moved on, absolutely. Yeah, if he wanted to. But look, I think the best way to put it, the best way to answer the question is whether would he have joined Newcastle is if he wasn't prepared to join Newcastle, why would Newcastle put 4 bids in and one worth 70 million quid, maybe even in excess of? I think they know the answer to that.
Sami,
you wouldn't even make one bid if you were led to believe the player wasn't up for going.
Yeah, I agree. Sami, can I ask you something? And this is something that baffled us as a channel, and I'm sure many other Newcastle fans as well. Like, I'm all for driving a hard bargain. Like, I think if you don't ask, you don't get kind of thing. You've got to be a bit cheeky, and you've got to try and box clever, particularly in this PSR world that we're in. But if we're led to believe that Parish and the other Crystal Palace board, etc., if they were saying the price for we believe the price for Marc Guéhi was around 75 million, why did Newcastle go in with an offer of like 45 rising to 50 initially? Now, as I say, I'm all for, trying to drive a bargain and, maybe chancing your arm a little bit, but that's quite a significant drop, isn't it, on what the actual asking price is? Or do you think it was just like testing the water to see whether Palace would crack?
No, yeah, maybe there was an element of testing the water, but in hindsight and knowing kind of having the information I have, I do wonder if that first initial bid got Palace's backs up, because it's almost like, well, you're not serious. You can't be serious about trying to get the player. And I think ever since then, and listen, Steve Parish is a really savvy businessman, right? That's his bread and butter. He knows how to negotiate. Now, if you're going to come to him, you've got to come to him properly. And I think, they wanted the way they sort of looked at the Marc Guéhi price tag was, well, Harry Maguire went for 80 million quid.
Yeah.
Like, what was it, about 5 years ago? We want there or thereabouts for England's number one centre half, which he was in the summer. I think he probably still is, despite the management change. I think he's now, one of the two first choice England centre backs.
Him and Stones, 100% all day.
Yeah.
Palace may have believed that they would have got 85 million quid for Marc Guéhi, but for Newcastle to then come in with an offer that is absolutely nowhere near that valuation. It would have just got, and I know how Steve operates, it would have just got Steve's back up. It just would have. And I think from that minute, that offer, that initial offer went in, I think Steve was always going to kind of get Newcastle, to force Newcastle to pay over the odds to get that deal over the line, which we now know, they just weren't prepared to do.
So now we're in a situation. So we didn't get that deal. We didn't get the centre back that we wanted. There's been noises that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, wanted Marc Guéhi after watching him at the Euros and was adamant he wanted him to play for Newcastle United. So you've got the de facto leader there that wants Marc Guéhi. We didn't get him. Okay, so now we roll on to January. We know that Marc Guéhi's contract's running out. We know so far that he's not willing to sign a new contract. You might be able to tell us something a little bit different on that. Is there a possibility, a genuine possibility, that Newcastle United go back in? And if they do, what I don't expect you to know the exact number, but would it be a significantly lower sum of money? What do you make of that potential coming in January, Sammy? We lost him.
I got your question. No, sorry, Dave. I got your question there. No. I think if Newcastle were to go back in for him in January, and I don't think that at the moment is completely beyond the realms of possibility. Although I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, have you got some defenders coming back now?
Sven Botman there's an expectancy that Sven Botman, Eddie Howe said this on last Friday. Eddie Howe said that Sven Botman should be expected back around December time, so before the January window.
Yeah.
So straight away, that lessens the priority of trying to get a centre back. Now, the only way I see a club or clubs making offers for Marc Guéhi in January will be for injury reasons. I think Premier League clubs are pretty set on the defensive options they've got. Certainly the clubs that Marc Guéhi would consider.
He'll be back in just a second. He's keeping his on streaks.
Oh, yeah, he's back.
We'll get there in the end. But I think if you look at those clubs, those top 6, top 4 clubs, I think their central defensive options are pretty set in stone at the moment. They've got what they need, right?
Yeah.
So it will take an injury to one of those players for that to perhaps sort of shake the market a little bit, and then maybe they may go for Marc. But I think it is more likely now that offers for Marc, the next set of offers for Marc, will come in January, because just because I think the market will dictate. I just don't think the top clubs need centre backs at the moment. They will do in the summer, I think, but not come January. Now, how because I do think that Palace would maybe have sort of I think their stance with regards to Marc might waver a little bit in January, because the start to the season hasn't been, well, it's been pretty atrocious, really. They haven't won a game yet. So a part of me thinks or knows that they will go into January knowing that they need to strengthen and try and bring in attacking reinforcements. But there isn't a lot of money to spend at Palace traditionally, and there isn't really at the moment either. So to be able to invest in your attack, something's going to have to give, and obviously Marc is their most valuable, is by far and away their most valuable asset. Well, him and probably Eberechi Eze, but they won't want to lose him.
No.
If they're trying to get attacking reinforcements, they're not going to sell Eze to strengthen that.
Exactly.
It's an interesting point that you mentioned. So ultimately, they could need to sell in order to strengthen. So then it comes back to the point: what's the figure? And I don't expect you to know that figure. I don't think anybody knows that figure right now. But what we should expect is that figure is significantly less than the 70.
Yeah, it'll be less. Of course it will. Yeah, it's not going to be 65, 70 million quid. There's no market for that. Certainly not in January. Now, depending on how you look at it, maybe you guys will say, well, great, Palace have shot themselves in the foot. They may end up getting 40 million for Marc next year. Whereas, if you're a Palace supporter or have connections to Palace, you might look at it in a different way and say, well, if they survive and they stay up, well, Marc's played a key role in helping us stay in the Premier League. We can recoup whatever the X amount of money, then the millions and millions of pounds that we get in TV revenue for staying in the Premier League. It's worked out for us. We've paid, Marc being here has paid that money back as such. But I just wonder, there is a part of me that wonders that maybe Palace, on reflection, wish that they may have looked to have done that deal now in summer.
Do you know what, Sammy?
I'm just thinking, it makes sense that they would.
Do you know what? Just to add in from what you said, because when you were talking about it, it just made me think. Obviously that you're right. That 65, 70 million is probably long gone now, and the trouble is, if there's no, because we discussed this on the channel as well, saying that when you look at all the other top clubs in the league, they're all pretty set defensively. Now, Van Dijk in a year's time could be another question. Depends whether he signs that contract or not. But Man United have forked out big. Man City are comfortable. Arsenal are fine. You can go on. And the trouble that Palace have got is they've knocked back that 65, 70 alleged million bid. And if nobody comes in January, they're then going to leave it till the summer. And then Marc Guéhi's only got 12 months left on his deal. So then clubs are then going to be circling and going, well, all right, yeah, we'll have Marc Guéhi. How's 30 million sounds? And then Palace are going to go, oh, we don't want to sell him for 30 million. That's scandalous kind of thing. But knowing that all the power then switches over to Marc Guéhi, because then he's like, well, I've only got a year left on my contract. I'm not signing a new deal.
And you're absolutely right, Chris. And the other dynamic to add onto those concerns would be, well, if you're Marc Guéhi, right? And listen, I know Marc's not really like this. He's all about his professional development and his career. But if you're Marc Guéhi and in 6 months, in January 2026, you can sign a pre-contract with a foreign club, and recoup all of that money, all of that 50, 60, 70 million quid, and you can have that in your back, in your back pocket. That is another reason why Palace, I think, may have financially missed the boat, because I just don't see Marc rushing into doing anything next summer unless it's right for him, because he could just stay at Palace for another year. He's absolutely then free to join whatever club he wants to join, and barring an injury, a serious injury, and touch wood, he doesn't, we wouldn't wish that upon anyone to get a serious injury. He could walk into any club on a free transfer, and I mean that.
Yeah,
because he's a really good player. He's a good lad. He's a great professional. Lived his life the right way. If you're getting that on a free transfer, I think that is that's a no-brainer for me.
And I agree. I agree. I also think from another perspective, there's another caveat to this, is that with Palace, and look, we've seen it in our chat tonight, our live chat. There's so many that are saying Marc Guéhi not worth it, dodged the bullet there, not worth the money, not the player that we thought he was, only good for England. There's just some of the comments that have been flying through in the chat tonight. There's others that are saying still would take him, talented player, not playing in a great team. And this is now the conversation, whereas in the summer it was very, very different after the Euros. And it's not my concern because he's not our player yet at this point. But for Marc Guéhi, surely that would be a concern, that if he continues to lose his games for Palace and Palace stay down there, I don't expect them to get relegated, but if they stay down there in that dogfight for long periods of the season, all of a sudden your stock lowers, because if you're conceding goals and losing matches as a centre-back, it's never, ever a good look. Unless you're literally like levels above all other defenders, then you can be seen differently. But at this moment, it's not being seen that way. And I was thinking, I personally, my own opinion, I think we need attacking reinforcements in the January more so than defensive. And you kind of alluded to that, Sami, as well. But could it be that Marc Guéhi pushes for that move and suggests that it's time to leave, knowing that Palace might need the money in, and knowing that he wants to keep his stock as high as possible to get a move to that top team? Because the worry would be is that Marc Guéhi's come not out of nowhere, but he's made that massive step up on the big stage, and everyone's going, yeah, he can do it, and wanting him. But if he goes back to playing at Palace and they have a really bad season, people won't see him at that level. And those top teams that he's been linked with, as Liverpool, a number of others that are fighting for Europe every season, might not want to take that jump. And it could well be the other way as well. And it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of unfolds. But I know we're short on time with you.
But Pete, listen, you're absolutely. I think you are absolutely spot on, and it would not surprise me, speaking from knowledge, if they were concerned that Marc Guéhi would harbour at the moment. I think he would look at that situation at Palace and think, how might this affect what options I have in January or next summer. 100%. He's only human. He will definitely be thinking that. But what I would say about would that then lend itself to him being more proactive in pushing for a move? He was made Crystal Palace captain at the start of the season. I think that's quite important to him, and I think he feels a sense of responsibility that Palace are languishing towards sort of the lower. Well, they're in the relegation zone as we speak, so they're in the reaches of the Premier League. While he's captain, I think I do believe that he feels a sense of responsibility to play a key role in sort of steadying the ship, as it were, and leading the team out of that situation. So in many ways, I think that while it will concern him in terms of his future, I think his professional pride will dictate that he won't want to be the guy that captained Crystal Palace out of the Premier League. I think he has a lot of respect for the club, who've given him this opportunity to sort of obviously play at the very highest level, and have provided him the platform to go and play for England, to be a key player for England now. And I still think I get what I absolutely understand what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying as well, Pete. But I still think that there will be big takers for Marc in the next, maybe not in January because the market isn't there, but maybe in the next two, in the summer window. And if not in the summer window, then he will leave on a free, and he'll have the pick of his clubs, in my opinion, if that's the case.
And another factor to throw in as well is Oliver Glasner, who's I think I read somewhere that he potential 3 games to save his job. Who had an amazing season last season. He was on everyone's lips as the job he was doing at Palace. But so like, if that was to happen, if he was to get the chop there, then whoever would come in would have a big say in it as well. They may need to sell to generate funds to bring in their own players and so on. So lots of factors supposed to put in the mix.
Sami, I know we're short on time. Have you got time for a couple of questions?
Yes, of course.
There's a few from the chat, and
it's only bedtime, so you'll probably do me a favour. To be fair,
nah.
the kids bedtime.
Hey, we all know that feeling. Don't worry about that, Sami. I love it. Let's throw in 10 questions then. Just
quick fire. Just a good comment here. We'll go back to England first, and then we'll go back around to Marc Guéhi. But Nobby Clark says Lewis Hall got his first Premier League start under Tuchel at Chelsea. Maybe he may start making the squad. Good point. Something to comment as well.
I on that, I was in Lee Carsley's. I was in his press conference post Finland, and he was asked a question about left backs, because obviously Trent played at left back that night, didn't he? And actually played quite well, I think, or one man in a match. But he name checked Lewis Hall, did Lee Carsley. So I think that's a pretty clear indication that he's on the pathway, and he's in the line of sight with regards to that left back situation, which is bleak, because I think our best left back is constantly injured in Luke Shaw, which is a shame, really. Ben Chilwell isn't getting any game time at Chelsea. Where do you look after that?
Rico Henry hasn't been given opportunity.
Is Rico Henry left-footed though? Is he naturally? He's right-footed though, isn't he?
I thought he was left-footed.
Is he lefty? Maybe he is. I don't know.
But he had a bad injury. I think did he have an ACL? He had an ACL.
He's so versatile, isn't he? Though. So versatile is Rico Henry. I suppose you just don't really know what position, but he's he's an excellent player. Levi Colwill, who's a centre back, obviously can probably fill in at left back, but is that ideal? Maybe not.
Tarek Mitchell.
Lewis Hall's got Livramento as well. He's versatile. We can play on both sides. I know the FA, the lads at the FA really, really like him. But again, in terms of natural balance, you want the left footer, don't you? So yes, but Lewis Hall for sure is one is on the radar.
Yeah,
cool. Sticking with Lee Carsley, and a question from Jules. She asked about Tuchel. Is he on gardening leave? Any idea why he doesn't start till January?
My understanding was that he was on, and obviously don't. I was into it last week when the news emerged that he was going to get the job. I think there is still a payment element from Bayern. Whether that's got anything to do with the fact that he starts on January the 1st, I couldn't tell you for definite, but my understanding is that he is effectively on gardening leave, and there is still he's still being paid by Bayern. Yes.
Okay, let's throw in a few of our own questions, lads, because and I'll end on Jordy Tune for Life's question at the end. But so Sammy, yeah, let's say we don't go for a centre back, and we do look to strengthen the right wing or forward position. Any rumours, any talk, anyone you can suggest yourself, even for Newcastle to look at in January? Let's focus on January.
Yeah. No, not any names. I do know that they're. And listen, you're not the only club, but I do know there's been a little look at Eberechi Eze at Crystal Palace. I do know that it's a pretty clear and straightforward deal to do, because he's got a release clause. So everyone, you know, I think it's around 68 million quid all in, which will reactivate next summer. They've looked at, I think, Newcastle are one of them.
Paul Mitchell's cut him off. You don't want him exposing anything else that he's been looking at. That's for sure. But Eze, top player.
Yeah. We talked about him in the same vein as who went to Bayern Munich. I've forgotten his name now.
Elise,
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Sammy, you're back.
Is he back? Is he back? He was back for a second.
He was back.
Oh, I'm back. I'm back again. Sorry.
Back again.
Yeah.
There we go.
Probably me. Yeah. So listen. In terms of Newcastle attacking rumours, I can't sit here and tell you that I'm inundated with information, but.
Oh, Paul Mitchell's got him again. Got him around the neck.
Yeah. Paul doesn't want me mentioning Eze, obviously, or anything to do with any Palace players after what happened in the summer. So yeah, I'm sure he's just tweaking the strings there at my router.
Definitely.
I'll go to the question for Jordy Tune for Life. And you lads, you might have one or two more, but Jordy Tune for Life says, first of all, he says, fantastic having you on the channel, Sammy. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure. Please come back sometime soon. And then he asked this question, and this is an interesting one for you. What's the biggest story you've broken, either on social media or in print?
Right, the ones that spring to mind are, so I broke Beckham's retirement.
Oh,
yeah, that will probably be that is probably the biggest one. So that was years ago, though, man. It must have been about 10 years ago. Most recently, I did the most recent one I remember is Paul Pogba's.
There we go.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I knew it was going to come up at some point.
That was
world exclusive, Sammy.
It was, yeah. And then what other ones? Remember the Spygate story? That was my fun. The Spygate story when Frank Lampard when Bielsa sent someone from Leeds to spy on.
Yeah.
I did that. I broke that.
No way.
Yeah. I did that
hilarious.
story as well, and that was one of my funny stories.
I love it.
That was good. That was.
Yeah.
No, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, good stories. And the Paul Pogba one was I remember reading that, and you got quite rightly a lot of plaudits from other journalists around. Including, I remember seeing David Ornstein tipping his hat to you on that one. Big story that, and obviously that's something that's going to potentially change his career around, because it's going to give him an opportunity, a new lease of life. So yeah, great stuff on that one. Any couple of questions, Chris, or anyone else from the chat before we let Sammy go and sort the bedtime routines out?
Hopefully it's done. Hopefully my missus has done it, and I can say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know you'd done it."
One of them. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. well, there was one from Tom Dixon about Jonathan David. Obviously, you mentioned about attacking reinforcements. He's a player that we've been linked with previously in the summer. Obviously, he's doing well in the Champions League this season, but again, 6 months left on his contract. So rather than, I imagine you haven't got any intel on Jonathan David and links to Newcastle, but he'll be a player that will definitely be commanding a lot of interest coming January with only 6 months left on his deal, surely.
On a free transfer, yeah, there will be a scramble for someone. It would be similar to, as we've spoken about previously, about Marc in sort of this time next year, and he's still at Palace and he hasn't signed his contract heading into January. There will be an almighty bun fight to try and get him, and there'll be clubs just throwing money at him and his advisors and his whatever to get that deal over the line. The Jonathan David is bags of potential, and he'll have loads of options. He'll have loads of Premier League options for sure. He's a good player, really good player.
Yeah, definitely. It's another one there with Josh. Get his name. It's
Achiampong.
Not signing an extended contract and then not being given for.
It's a difficult situation for. He's a good young player at Chelsea, and he's highly rated. But as ever with with Chelsea players, because they're so loaded, they're so top heavy with their recruitment, it's hard for the kids to break in. And as much as Chelsea may look to offer him new contracts and try and negotiate new contracts, I almost understand why young players are maybe hesitant to sign at Chelsea, because where's the pathway into the senior team? Where's the next John Terry? Who are you looking at in that Chelsea team? And looking at that person and say, well, he's the example. He's proof that I can get into the senior team. Because at the moment, as I say, their recruitment is so top heavy that they've almost forgotten about the players that the good players that are coming through the ranks, and just leaving the gaps open for those, a few gaps open for those, just to flourish and shoot through. And it's difficult I think if you're a young player at Chelsea at the moment, it's difficult. And if he is, as we're led to believe, reluctant to sign a contract, then I can understand it.
Sammy, I had a quick question for you, actually. It just popped in my head then. I don't know how close you were to this deal at all, or whether you'd heard anything, but we heard towards the back end of the last window that Newcastle were kind of scurrying round and looking at Anthony Elanga from Nottingham Forest. And then there was rumours that a bid didn't go in. There was rumours that a bid did go in. Like, how close do you think we were to looking at Anthony Elanga, or do you think that was part of the Elliot Anderson deal and it was us trying to bring him in a swap deal, and then we ended up with Lacademos, didn't we?
No. They made an offer on deadline day. I am as sure as I can be that offer came in.
Wow.
For Elanga at Forest, but it was I was told at the time, it may have been about sort of maybe 5 o'clock on deadline day, that it was and to quote on my phone, it's impossible, because it just came too late in the day. It was too late. And maybe if that negotiation had started a couple of days before, it may have had legs, but it would have given Forest time then to sort of just crunch the numbers and also maybe get a replacement in. But doing that 5 hours to deadline or 6 hours to deadline, it just made it absolutely impossible. But it was a genuine and authentic bid, yes.
Well, another one to see whether that is revisited in January as well. Big money. That one was potential, rumored to be 40-50 million.
Yeah, it was a big offer, but I think Forest just decided that we can't lose him and not bringing in a replacement, which is understandable, I guess. And I think that was the key reason as to why it didn't happen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Boys, if there's no more questions, then we'll definitely let Sami go. But Sami, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you for coming in and joining us.
It's been a pleasure, lads. I really, really enjoyed it. No, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Sami.
Look, if anything breaks close to January or January, we'll definitely get in touch. It'll be great to have you on, even if it's just for a short period to talk it through, because I know January will be another busy time for you.
Listen, lads, I would love to come on. So please, I really enjoyed it. I love the show. I think you guys do a great job. So please, I look forward to coming on again.
Cheers, Sami.
Thank you, Sami.
Cheers, lads.
Take care, mate.
Enjoy bedtime.
Cheers. Good luck. Hopefully it's done. See you later.
It's done deal. Breaking news.
Quality. Great to have Sami on. Great guest and great debut on the channel. We got some good information there with regards to the Marc Guéhi situation, Eddie Howe, and definitely moving forward. It's not out the realms of possibility that Marc Guéhi is looked at again, but there's a number of different factors there, boys. And I know Sami, from his perspective, sees Marc Guéhi is very much a professional, and quite rightly so. Is someone that maybe won't want to rock the boat, but the other side of things, if Palace keep doing what they're doing, he may want to get out now before his stock drops too low to a point in which there's no interest there. So it's been interesting.
And he's also got to consider the New England manager now as well, and making sure of his place as well. He should be pretty secure, but there's a whole lot of factors to come into it. And interested on Eze as well, whether that's a player. Because we was an awful lot of talk from us about Eze towards the end of last season. It was on fire.
I know you weren't on the review for Brighton, but it was a conversation that came up and has done across social media actually, that we're missing that creative player that can be a spark in the team, that can bring that little something different in. We talked about Maddison a couple of years ago being that guy. He's not the athletic type to get around and cover all blades of grass, but has that little bit of quality. Eze is probably more athletic than that, and certainly has the spark. Eze would be a fantastic signing. He did mention though with Eze, and I did read it today, that Eze's release clause does open up next summer, but if you put enough money down in January, and if you need an attacking player enough, do you really
dance with Forest or dance with Palace again? No,
mate. If their form continues, they're gonna have to do something, because right now it's not working, is it?
Let's not forget what Sami said. They want to strengthen, but they don't have the money to do so. Now, if they're in a position where they could get maybe 2-3 players, even 4, with the money that's raised from one sale, that could give them options in attacking areas to really boost the team, do you sacrifice that one for maybe 3 or 4 that could make the difference? They didn't do it in the summer with Marc Guéhi. They didn't do it, and we didn't mention it with Sami, but obviously speaking to. Not speaking to, but seeing a lot of Palace fans on social media, a lot of them now, even on D's channel. I watched D's channel the other night. The comments coming through on that, they all wish Guéhi gone now, whereas they were demanding he was staying in the summer. They all kind of wish they'd sold him and recouped the money. Now, can they afford to do that again if there's genuine interest in it? It may not be us, maybe Man City, maybe somebody else. But can they afford, regardless of who it is, to let that opportunity go again? Because if they end up just surviving relegation and don't have a great season, there's no way that anyone's paying that 68 million release clause in the summer.
No.
Boys, let's do the draw, because the Loaded Ultras member draw, because we will forget it otherwise, or I will. But Chris, while I'm getting the spinny wheel set up, tell us what's the prize.
Yes, so it's that time again. It's time for another loaded draw. So what we're going to give away this time around is a lovely mug and a T-shirt to go with as well. So
Do you want a
that's
model?
gonna-
Do you want a model, Chris? Because we've got a model. And it's Harry.
have we?
Harry modeled
Oh,
one of
there
the
he is.
t-shirts.
There he is.
So there's Harry.
Excellent.
Harry purchased a t-shirt there a week or two ago, and he's there. He's actually at his son's game out in the States. Could be somewhere near Texas. I'm not 100% sure, but Austin, Texas, maybe even. Yes, but yeah. So there's Harry. So yeah, he's representing.
Love
it.
Texas. Only place in America I've ever been, but I love it. Honestly, I went to Houston. Great place, and
Yeah.
you can tell it's not. You can tell it's not England or the UK because there's actual sunshine and blue skies.
And if you don't happen to win in the lot of members draw, you could go along to the shop and there's 10% off at the moment. Not free delivery, as Chris pointed out. I listened back to the show, lads. Not free. Yeah, you still have to pay for delivery. No, not free delivery. The free delivery at Manscaped, but not in our shop yet. Where we'll see. Maybe we'll have to go even lower or something if we actually get a win someday. But yeah, the shop 10% off at the moment in our loaded shop.
Can I just say really quickly? Rich Joblin said, "Can we see proof that our names are in the draw?" Now, if you look to the right of the screen, Rich, all the names of the members are in the draw. That are in the draw are there. So
can you scroll down, Dudley?
Yeah,
he's doing it
down. There's 118 names in there. Harry Austin, Harry from Austin is there. Yeah.
Harry, yeah.
Tyson, Sto Amos, one of our Spanish.
Rich Joblin, there he is.
There you go, Rich. Get on that wheel, lad. Come on, Rich.
There's proof. Yes. And our names are in it as well, lads. We have never been pulled out, but our names are in there. Right. So you told us what we're giving away, Chris. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Mug and a t-shirt.
Best of luck, everyone. Best of luck.
Good luck.
I love the spinny wheel, you know.
Tampa Toon. Congratulations, Tampa Toon. Tampa Toon. I have Tampa Toon's email address. Must contact them and let them know. Tampa Toon, who would give away vouchers to the club shop there one somewhere to our loaded members. Yeah, so delighted we can return the favor, Tampa Toon, and give you something back. Fix.
You know what, guys? We've not talked about this, so I apologize. But should we do another one?
I'll just do another one, Pete. Just do another one. Hey, I've just seen in the chat then, look at that. Geordie Toon for life. Free delivery worldwide on all loaded products courtesy of
There's still people out in Spain looking for that free t-shirt off you, Chris, as well, by the way.
We've not talked about it, but let's throw in another one. Why not?
Do another one.
So let's remove Tampa Toon in case he gets pulled out again. It'll be definitely called a fix. So we remove Tampa Toon. We go again. Same again. Same prize again, Chris.
Let's do it again. Let's do a double bubble. Come on, let's do it.
Good luck, everyone. Who's it coming?
Lee Carr. Congratulations, Lee Carr.
Well done, Lee.
Lee
Nice
Carr.
one. Get in contact with us and let us know this week because we need to get your obviously your address and your t-shirt size as well. The mug we can guess the mug. The mug will be okay. It's just the t-shirt size and the color as well that you'd like. So get in contact with us, Lee, and Tampa Toon will have your email address already, so I can make contact with you. Cool.
Rich Joblin wants to redraw. He wants to redraw. He ain't happy.
Jesus. You'd have to take our word for it, Rich.
But again, if they don't come forward, we roll it again. We roll it again.
We go again.
Keep rolling.
That's right.
Keep rolling.
That's how we roll here. Speaking of how we roll, is it time for some sponsors?
It might be.
Right, Chris. Let me see.
Oh God.
Whose turn is it this time?
I'll do it. I think it's my turn this time. And Dad, you've done a fantastic job last time, so I thought it's only fair that I take that mantle off you this time, mate. It is. So as always, a massive shout out to our sponsors, Manscaped. And I'm gonna do the different readout, Daz. I've chosen the different one from the one you did last time. So let's see how it goes. It's a bit lengthy, but let's see how it goes. Ladies, is your man still rubbing his head in the shower with just his hands? Well, that's no way to treat a scalp. Let Manscaped give him a little TLC with the new Scalp Buffer. Forget the razors and the ball deodorant. It's time he steps up his head game. Let's face it, men need... I said that terribly. Let's face it, men need a little bit of help in the grooming department. So why not get him the only silicone toy he'll actually need in the shower? And the best part is it's safe to share. So that's really good. His scalp will thank you, and so will you. So the Manscaped Scalp Buffer. God, I can't speak tonight. The Manscaped Scalp Buffer is a silicone grooming tool designed to exfoliate the scalp, stimulate blood flow, and enhance shampoo performance for a cleaner, healthier head of hair. These thick silicone bristles are 100% antibacterial, helping your scalp stay clean and refreshed by gently exfoliating away dry skin and product buildup. One of the coolest features is that it's designed to stimulate blood flow to your hair follicles. Increased blood flow means healthier hair. And check out the luxurious lava it creates, enhancing shampoo penetration for a more effective cleanse with less product. That means your shampoo lasts longer, so you can save extra money for more important things, like a pair of shoes or concert tickets. Let's not forget the relaxing scalp massage it provides. After a long day using this, feels like a mini spa treatment. It's the perfect way to unwind while giving your scalp some much needed TLC.
Wow. Nice one.
Yeah.
Where's the sexy music gone?
We need the sexy music.
I can't find it now. It's gone. It's gone. Oh, here we are.
Wow, chicka, wow, wow.
Yes.
Wow, chicka, wow, wow.
Stop. Cool. Great show, lads. Thanks for everyone for tuning in as well. Make sure you smash that like button on the web. Away day is tomorrow as well. So that people know away it is tomorrow. I don't have the poster in the system actually, but trust us.
Yeah, we've got Don, Greasy Don. If anyone's seen him on other panel shows, you know how some people call him deluded or just adamant he is as a Chelsea fan. We've also got Charlie coming back to join us as well. So we've got a Chelsea panel tomorrow night that's coming to join the boys, and we're going to be talking all things Chelsea and Newcastle. And there's going to be confidence from Chelsea, no doubt about it. Expect it. They're in great form. We're not. So it should be a really, really interesting conversation. But come and join us for that as we talk it all through. Looking forward to it.
Tom makes some great points here as well. What if we got no hair? And he also says, who plays with ducks in the bath? Things to think about. Radio. That's it. That's it for tonight. Hope you enjoyed the show with Sami. And as we said, we're back on tomorrow. How'd you like that? Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
How you like?
Like me, then tell him you like that, like that.